at the Bitcoin event,
Oh my God.
and none of us were invested in coins. So I say I had the best ROI in Bitcoin because I didn't invest in anything. But
So how's your day going? Has it been going good?
yeah, it's March 1st. I can't believe it's already March. The weather here in Boston is kind of getting warmer, so I did a little this morning to get some Starbucks, and it was good. It was good.
Good. How has your year been in general? You said that you can't believe March is already here.
It just went by so fast. The e-commerce that reopened last April, it's been already a year, but we saw some increased demand starting in January, so we had to adjust to that. So it's been pretty busy, but and as you know, my son is now 6 months in, so last 2 months has been like rolling and crawling, and it's been fun.
That's so cool. Let's jump right into it. Since I discovered you through Gary's comment section, how did you discover Gary in the first place?
Yeah, so I came to the United States about a year and 10 months ago. But when I was in Korea, I was seeing snippets of him, his Instagram post or like YouTube video.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like 6 months ago that I really tuned into him and really consumed his content.
Right.
And I just fell in love with his positivity, the gratitude, and he also was part of family business, which I was part of for the past 4 or 5 years. So learned a lot from his content. So started watching his YouTube, then led to audiobook. Then I kind of like stalked him on Twitter and Instagram and left a message. I think that's how he found me. But yeah, super grateful. And I also lived in Jersey, so I'm not a Jets fan, but actually I don't have a football team that I follow, but he's from Jersey, so that's good. Yeah.
Cool. So, what are you currently involved in? Are you an employee or are you running a business? What's happening currently?
Yeah. So, it's an interesting journey. So I worked in family business for 4 years when I was in Seoul. My father ran this company called The Beautiful People. It's a menswear manufacturing. We make suits, jackets, and coats for name brands in Korea. So I was part of the B2B commerce and manufacturing side for 4 years.
Right.
And I wanted to take a little break. I was getting married, and I wanted to start a family journey. So I came to Boston a year and 10 months ago to be part of a program called Sloan Fellows MBA program at MIT. And while in the middle of it, COVID hit. So all our classes went to online, which kind of sucked. But and just I realized that my father's company has been going through rough times because, as you can imagine, not a lot of people are wearing suits or going to department stores to buy suits during this time. So they're really hurting. So for me, my intention of coming here and I wanted to see the bigger world and possibly work for some company that I can engage with other people and learn more about possibly like software industry and cutting edge because I wanted to kind of improve myself from traditional manufacturing, and the timing was that I had to get my hands dirty again and try to help out the factory. So starting in last March, I looked for big brands or companies that are looking to make masks, and I found out that my dad made these masks for his employees. The name The Beautiful People, out of 130 employees, 35% of them are people with disabilities. So it was important for him to protect them, and also 90% of our employees are female, older female. So it was important for him to protect them during COVID times. And I got to see a sample that he sent for me and my family, and decided this could be, there's a market for it, definitely. So first approach was contacting, big companies to see if they're interested in supplying for their employees, or if they want to carry as their brands. So I reached out to a bunch of them. And at the same time, I also, with my sister's help, co-founded Mamask, which is a D2C e-commerce brand for ourselves, so we can sell directly to customers here. So that's what I've been working on for the past, 11 months.
Cool. So the company that you started with sisters, where are you getting your raw materials from? Are you using your dad's, or are you purchasing your own raw material?
Right. So we're manufacturers, so we're cut and sew factory. So we source all the fabric, which is 100%. But there are two types. One is 100% cotton fabric, and we source them from Seoul, Korea. Right. And also we develop this copper fabric, which has these, which is like a copper infused fabric that has these antibacterial, antimicrobial benefits. And we were able to, produce that in Korea, and that's how we make the filters made out of copper filter, and also our sports mask, which inside there's a copper fabric. So yeah, most of them are sourced. The materials are sourced in Korea, and also it's made in Korea.
And did you have trouble during the COVID time to import and export the fabric?
I guess so. For us in the U.S. and when I exported to Canada, it was exporting the finished goods, right? The masks inside the package.
Right.
And no, we didn't have too much trouble. I think at first, what the Korean government did was they imposed restriction on exporting masks, but that restriction was only for medical grade. So like N95s, all the so our masks, cotton masks, didn't fall into categories. We were able to export them, and what was good was Korea and Canada and Korea and EU, or Korea and the US, have the free trade agreement that kind of allow for lower or zero import tax when we do these. So that helped out with that process.
Cool. And did you enjoy it, like when you were in your dad's business, when everything was like pre-COVID, when everything was functioning amazingly? Did you enjoy being part of that business?
I don't think it was functioning all smoothly. I think the two things. One is the fact that it was a family business. Of course, had I learned about Gary's tricks earlier, I would have approached it in a more positive way. But there definitely times of struggle, and I don't want to say egos, because he knows my father has been in the industry for a long time. So I have a lot of respect for his views and the way he carries his business. But there are times that I wanted to do something different, but I didn't feel like I was experienced enough to really bring forth that idea. And also the second part is just the fact that apparel manufacturing, I guess in any country, is such a low margin business. So and it's just when it's low margin and when there's little capital to reinvest or really really be, I guess, affluent or resourceful, can be really tough. And what happened in my last year in Korea was that the Korean government increased the minimum wage requirement significantly, and that kind of hurt our bottom line, and and all the effects that happen after it. So I saw the trouble, difficult parts, but the positive side of it is I got to know about my dad and his business much more deeply, and I guess got connected with him both good and bad times. It's funny, so going into his factory and learning about the business and learning what kind of people he hired or what kind of policies he set forth and what kind of machines he bought. So it's like reading, his diary, like what he did for the past 20 years. Like that's how he spent his time and career and life towards it. So it's a very humbling experience. At the same time, as I said, it wasn't smooth.
And how did you get into it? Did your dad ask you to come join him? Did you want to join in for experience?
Yeah, so I started out my career as a CPA. So I worked at KPMG New York for 2 years, and a little over 2 years. So my background and is finance and accounting. And after 2 years of that in New York, I went back to Korea to serve in the military for 3 years as an officer. So I was an interpreting officer between Korean military and U.S. military. So no, I had no exposure to fashion or apparel manufacturing, except the fact that I lived in New York, but I was just very, very far away from fashion. But I knew what my dad was doing. He was making suits for these brands, but we also had these custom suits made for select individuals who visited our factory. And when I was serving in the military, I encountered some U.S. soldiers, U.S. officers who were looking into getting customized suits because it's so expensive for them to get it when they're back in the U.S. So I was like, yeah, you can come to our factory during the weekend and check it out. And they love the quality, they love the price point, especially they love the story of our beautiful people. And they brought friends, they brought families. So I guess my dad saw that I was kind of interested in that part of the business. And that's why, my intention was to go back to U.S., to go back to, in that finance accounting sector after military. But he kind of convinced me he didn't convince me to, let's do this forever. He was like, check it out, man. You should. So I kind of fell for it. And then that's where it happened.
Cool. And did you ever, since you were manufacturing, did you guys ever thought of doing direct to consumer? Since, the margins are so much better and everything.
Yeah. Our only direct to consumer model back then was the custom suits that I talked about, our own custom suit. But I guess my father was hesitant in going into D2C route back then. For example, selling clothes online or selling clothes, our own brand of clothes at department stores, because he felt that he had these contractual, obligations to the brands that he was serving in Korea. So he didn't want to be the direct competitor to them by making their clothes and also our own brand. But times have changed by now. But back then, when he was running it, so we didn't go into it. But that's something that I think about as I kind of think about how I should go back and really help him out. Is building that kind of D2C brand.
Right. Yeah, it would be a conflict of interest if you start doing your own. And you said, you would be a direct competition. But I'm sure that there's so many manufacturers. I watch a lot of Shark Tank, so I know just a little bit. And that there's so many manufacturers who they have their contracts with B2B, but then they also do their own things on the side in agreement with their wholesalers and everything. So maybe if you guys speak with them, and especially with COVID now, everyone's shopping online and no one's going to retail anymore. It's a completely different market. So I think shifting D2C would be really something to do in the future.
No, and really near future. It's something that's on back of my mind. So this Mamas was a good introduction for me to get into this D2C space, having our own brand and really talking directly to customers and U.S. customers. So and what's interesting is we also have a website in Korea, and that sales being kind of helped by our presence in the U.S. So it's an interesting model that I think about definitely. Yeah.
And what if you're just not sell in Korea and sell directly to the States? You would have an advantage since your pricing would be lower and you would not be in direct competition with people in Korea. Is that something that might work?
Yeah, I think that's exactly where my head is at. And yeah, thank you for bringing that up. But yeah, as you said, this online shopping will just get accelerated during COVID, and it's just going to continue to grow for the foreseeable future. So gotta get ready for that. Yep.
Do you guys have a website, and does it have like product photos and things like that where people can purchase, or not yet?
So yeah, our mask has a website, www.mamask-usa.com.
Okay, I'll link that
and
in.
Also, and also I built this I guess introductory page. I'll send you the link. It's called the Jong, www.theJeong.com,
Mm-hmm.
and it has the photos of our suits and jackets. I made that introductory page to when I was visiting the U.S. about 3 years ago to sell some custom suits. So I brought a tailor from Korea. We did like some events in New York, and I have that webpage that I'll love to share.
So cool. Please do share all your links with me on your Instagram. I'm going to link them down below in this description so people can find them.
Thank you.
And last question on this regard matter. Why was it called The Beautiful People? Is it because you have a story of who were the people who were making the suits?
Yeah, so my father named it Beautiful People. In Korean, it's 아름다운 사람. Precisely because of people who were working there. Like a lot of people might ask him during interviews or media presence that is this like a charity, or is this this kind of socially responsible thing? And he's very direct about it. He had to hire people with disabilities because he couldn't find young people to work for apparel manufacturing in Korea. It's such a low, I guess, as a minimum wage, and lots of factories have closed down in Korea. So it was this survival method to bringing in people with disabilities. We have various types of disabilities, from hearing impairment, from autism, from physical disability. But what he did well, and what grew the number of people, was that he treated them fairly. And it's surprising to hear that there was a secret, but he treated them as same as people with no disability, and positioned them based on merits, based on their skills, rather than if they're disabled or not. So that kind of fairness really, I think, resonated with people, and they introduced other people to come join the factory, and that kind of became not only the name, but the culture of the factory. What's sad is that that kind of thing wasn't as celebrated too much. Now in the fashion and apparel industry, we talk about sustainability, we talk about socially responsible thing, but it wasn't as, I guess, celebrated before. In some contexts, like some would have this preconceived notion that maybe the quality is somehow worse because it's made by people with disabilities, so which has no base to it.
Exactly.
In fact, we see some quality better because he was able to hire people with disabilities but had these extreme consistency and loyalty to the product and the quality. So so I guess what I need to do is try to make this factory and this story known to more people, and really connect what we can offer, which I believe we have the best quality in Korea, and really speak to customers abroad.
I think that's so fantastic. It really is such a nice name. And what really now people are focusing is even buying clothes, is since there's so much abundance, people want to buy stuff that means something and that has substance to it, and that is something that can tell a story. They perform exceptionally well, even if it's just a sock company who's just a percentage of sales go to a charity. People want to be behind things that have a cause in them. And your story is so beautiful, and you said your product itself was great, that when people saw it they were extremely attracted to it. So and Gary talks about it a lot, creating ads, and that just gives you so much context on how you can build up your ads and communicate that message of it's not just any longer buying a nice suit that looks fresh, but it's about buying into something, where you're contributing to empowering other people. And
Yeah.
and the company name itself is like so beautiful, so I think it automatically communicates that message. And you can show like videos of the people who are working behind the scenes in factories, and show like the ready-made suit, and then run ads on them and direct people to your website and stuff like that. Like, I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, I think this year will be really important because, as I said before, the suit business was really tough last year and also this year. Yeah. So the runways, I can see it getting shorter. So this year, I really want to lay the groundwork so that what you just said really can happen. And who knows? Maybe I'll connect to customers in India as well.
Yes, that's so cool.
Yeah,
100%. And I think Gary was speaking a lot about like how business, since they are all going to be on e-commerce, and social media is a driving factor to run ads and do like just create content. That's how you run ads. So he was speaking a lot about like hiring young people, and a lot of, since you were in the Gary community, so you'd get it. Like there are a lot of young people who are photographers, who are filmmakers, who are editors, and they're just hungry for like work and experience. And if you put out like a LinkedIn ad, like, hey, you know, who would want to come work for free and get like a certificate or something, you might find people in Korea who can help out your dad to create content and like just, you know, start building up a social media presence. And there's no one better than the youth to help you in social media. And they're like full of energy and new ideas and creativity. So I think that could really like revive things.
Although I'll probably I won't make them work for free. I'll probably give them some suits or jackets so they can.
Yeah, that'll be dope, because they itself are really expensive, so that'll be like a good incentive. So there's this question that we ask everyone on the podcast is, are you happy?
I am happy. I'm happy. I'm nervously happy, which means that I'm really happy that even though I'm, working from home, I'm stuck at home, but it's my wife and my 6-month kid that I get to spend a lot of time with.
Yeah.
I sometimes in the morning when I wake up trying to feed him, I feel like, wow, if I was in Korea and I know what kind of business struggle that my dad's going through, and I wouldn't have that bandwidth to really like enjoy my time as a family here.
Right.
So I'm happy. I'm nervous for the factory back home. I'm cautiously optimistic as I, hear more content from Gary and speak to young people like you about the possibilities out there that I can do something. So, yes, I'm overall happy. Yeah.
So cool. And would you say that you're happy now, or have you been like a happy person in general?
I'm generally positive, and I generally have no regrets on the decisions I've made.
Right.
But there were times when I was working in the factory that I didn't see where my input was, where the future of this business is going.
Yeah.
Very uncertain about the relationship with my father. So there were times that was that I definitely needed some positive mentors like Gary. But it was a struggle that not a lot of people can understand. Maybe I couldn't find more people like me, where when I was working for KPMG, when I was working for the military, I was an employee basically, and I could share these worries and thoughts or like hopes and with other people really freely. But as I was working for the family business, and also as a son of a boss, it was really difficult for me to share that within the factory or outside the factory. But I was fortunate to have some friends who were involved in family business and going through these times. But I guess that's why I when I learned about Gary's family business, that I kind of connected with it more. One of my favorite podcasts was with him and his father, Sasha, drinking wine and talking about what happened before, and how his dad really trusted him and how he really showed his worth. And I look back to what I was going through, and And what I can do in the future is trying to take a good piece of that advice and really apply it. So I guess the question was I always happy? Not always, but generally I'm a pretty positive guy, I think.
Cool. Yeah, I think Gary talks a lot about perspective and that being directly dependent on how happy you are. So even when he had super tough time with his dad's business, he spoke about the perspective of his dad gave him so much, he is the person who he is today. So whenever he was going through a tough time, he looked at it as me giving back and me repaying my debts of gratitude. So that really helped him a lot in his perspective.
I love that. I love that part of it.
So that was really cool. And then the next question for you would be, what's your story? You as a person, since you were a kid to today, what's your story?
My story, I guess, a kid who was... So I was born in Korea. I was born in Seoul. As a baby, my mom said I was very... I was all over the place, crawling. I see my son crawling, but I was probably 10 times worse, crawling everywhere. We'd go to department stores and that would, mess up all the clothes on the mannequin as a kid. So I was a handful.
Right.
And when I was in elementary school, I was really gregarious. I wanted to be, team leader. I wanted to be class leader. Had a lot of friends. And then 97, that's when we made a move to the United States as a family as a whole. My father back then was tasked with... So he was working. He wasn't a boss. He was working for this company, an apparel company, and he was tasked with building a U.S. company in 97. And when we got here, it was September 97, and November 97, there was big Asian financial crisis that really hurt the company and hurt a lot of people, and he got laid off. So he was, looking back, he was 42 years old. I was in 5th grade. My sister was in 2nd grade, and he is in New Jersey, and he didn't have a job. So he was like, I'm going to start a business. I have always wanted to start a business, but I don't know what's going to happen. So you guys stay here. So he went back to Korea by himself. That's where he built the beautiful people. So my mom and my sister and I spent our youth, middle school, high school in New Jersey. So I quickly became very, I don't want to say responsible, but someone who didn't want to cause trouble, because my mom wasn't good at speaking English, and so I kind of became more of an adult at an early age, because my father was in Korea, and he would visit once or twice a year. I mean, we would visit Korea back, during summer break, but so I became, obviously not a bread earner, but trying to be grounded, trying to not cause trouble, and I guess that kind of led me to take more of a conservative choice when I went to, so I went to NYU, and back then accounting, finance was very hot, and my mom always wanted me to have some kind of degree of that can really provide, I guess,
security.
Stability.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's what kind of led me to pursue accounting and got my CPA, because,
What's a CPA? I'm sorry.
Certified Privileged Accountant.
Okay.
So it's a 4-part test that you have to take to become a CPA, and so you basically become a part of the Big 4 accounting firm, and then you get this CPA license. So so it was very not causing trouble and not very being stable. And looking back, I wasn't really thinking about what do I really want. But back at NYU, I became the leader for Korean Student Association. So I was really passionate about I guess hanging out with Korean people, even though I was in New York, and I always loved Korean culture and K-pop, and whenever I went back to Korea during summer, I really felt home. And here I was working for this big company in New York, getting my license, but wasn't sure if this is what I'm called for, what I really enjoy. And the fact that my father and my mother are in Korea, and as a oldest son, I was thinking about what if I need to take care of them? Like, can I do that as I work here in the U.S. or do I want to make myself flexible and work that I can both work in Korea and also in the U.S. So I had my green card for the U.S. But as a green card holder, you have two choices. You either can apply for U.S. citizenship, or as a Korean citizen, there's a mandatory military service. So for me, it was that choice whether I do the U.S. Korean military or stay in the U.S. as a citizen. And I thought about it, and this is what kind of when I make big decisions, I think about. I read somewhere in the book, I forgot what the book was, but I think about like the future self, and if I look back at this moment, will I be happy about that decision? So if I have to make a decision about U.S. or Korea at that time, what decision would make me happy years later? And that time, I was certain that I'll try the military, and that would get me closer to my parents, spend some time in Korea, which I haven't spent since like 5th grade. And that allows me to work both, freely in Korea or in U.S. if I choose to. So, so that's that. So I apply for Korean military. So there are 2 routes of it. You can do a soldier, which is 2 years, and you can take a test to become an officer, which is 3 years. And I did the latter, which would provide me with more flexibility and I guess more pay too, but not as much. And also the fact that it was interpreting officer, which allowed me to use my skill that I understand both Korean culture, Korean language, and also the U.S. culture and U.S. in English. It was perfect for me. I was serving for my country and also really using my skill to help
build friendship.
So that's why I got into the military, but I also wanted to come back to U.S. possibly to further my career. But then the whole thing happened with Dad convincing me to the beautiful people, and here I am. So I guess I don't have a really good story, but
it is good. What are you talking about? I had to ask. So when you chose the military service, you were kind of applying for the Korean citizenship in that sense?
So I was already a Korean citizen. I was born in Korea, but I also had a U.S. green card. So
the green card does not mean citizenship?
No. U.S. green card means I'm a resident. I'm a permanent resident in the U.S. I can work here, but I can't vote as a U.S. citizen. But my duty as a Korean citizen remains in terms of military service. So I guess that was kind of, looking back, there were a lot of friends in New York that kind of tried to discourage me to go to military because I'll be taking a break for my career for 3 years. But I was like, people live till 100 these days, and 3 years is an interesting journey. And maybe I was naive, maybe I was, but as I said, I don't regret spending the time with the family and also, the opportunity to serve for the country. And I guess that really got me into a mental position of what my identity is. As a Korean, and also someone who also loves the U.S. And if I'm going to do some kind of business, I definitely want to do something that connects the both worlds. And that's what I thought about while I was working for his company in his factory. How I can bring my value, introducing this factory to U.S. customers and global customers, and Mamask, which was basically doing that import business from Korea to serving U.S. customers. So I guess I'll probably do that for foreseeable future.
How cool. And since your mom and your sister were living together, when did your mom move back to Korea? Is that when you were in university?
Yes. So when I went to NYU, she moved back to join my dad.
I see. So that means that you did not really spend a lot of time with your dad growing up, and you being in the family business was your shot at actually like spending real time with him.
That was That's exactly right. So that's why I said it was like reading his diary. Like what was this guy doing when we were apart, right?
Yeah.
He obviously worked his butt off, providing for us.
Yeah.
There were great decisions he made. There were some decisions I wish that were different. So it was both good and bad, and also, him as well. Like, working with me probably caused him a lot more headache than he thought.
Yeah.
So it was vice versa. Now it's it's all about respect, about what he's done, but regarding the harsh reality of having a difficult situation, I guess it's my turn to really turn it around and really help him out, to help the factory out.
That's amazing. And where do you see yourself in the future? If you'd say, like, would it be in the States or would it be back in Korea? When you grow up and you've done everything in your career and now you just want to make a choice following your heart, not your brain.
Yeah, I love Korea. I love Seoul. I really wish you could visit someday. I hope I'm there to show you around. But
yes.
Seoul, I since young age. So when from New York to Seoul, there are 2 flights, and the flight that I took would leave in New York like at midnight New York time, and then arrive in Korea, Incheon Airport around 4:30 a.m. And when you get off the plane and you wait, when I try to go to my parents' apartment, you would go through this highway that kind of sits along the Han River, which is the main river in Seoul, and you would see all these buildings and apartments, and you would see the sunrise, and I love the feeling of that, and I would definitely go back. Right now, I don't know if I'll be in Boston. Right now I'm in Boston, but I'm planning on possibly moving to different places within the U.S., but my hope is to build some kind of system, some business that, as you mentioned before, the D2C model that I can introduce our products to the U.S. customers. But I want to make it so that I can go back and forth the U.S. and Korea. And if it allows, I would definitely want to stay in Seoul.
And would you say where you feel more at home, when you are in the States or when you're in Korea?
Definitely Korea now.
Yeah?
I think, yeah. Just, I think I really realized that when I was serving in the military and spending, my years working in the factory, living in Seoul. Of course, like living there, it also has ups and downs. And right now, I said I was happy that I'm kind of like spending my time closely with my immediate family, but just the signs, the streets, and the food, and both parents and the in-laws are there, and so I definitely want to. I want to say I feel at home there.
Cool. What's your favorite food in like the Korean cuisine?
Favorite food? There's so many. GaryVee, which is Korean barbecue beef.
Right.
It's really good. Samgyeopsal, which is pork, really good. Doenjangjjigae is a bean paste soup. Of course, that's really good. So yeah, it just makes my mouth water. But
do you have like good Korean restaurants in Boston?
Favorite dish in Boston?
I'm saying, do you have good Korean restaurants in Boston?
Yeah.
That was really sad, yeah.
Yeah, it's
not the
it
same.
isn't big as like LA or New York, the Korean scene is. And my wife is a tremendous cook. She used to cook. She used to run her own cooking class in Korea. So
wow,
I'm kind of spoiled in that way.
How lucky!
So yeah, very lucky that. Yeah.
That's amazing. And where did you meet your wife? Was it in the States or was it back in Korea?
No, it was back in Korea. It was back in Seoul. Yeah, it's an interesting story.
Please tell us.
So I met her at the Bitcoin event.
Oh my god!
So Seoul was like this hub for Bitcoin like 3 years ago. Every conference, every investment meetings were being held in Seoul. Obviously, like I had no interest in Bitcoin. I still don't. I should have invested, but I don't have any Bitcoin. My wife has no interest in Bitcoin, but I was there to promote like the custom suit brand that I was talking about, the Jung.
Yeah.
So I was handing out because I knew there were a lot of foreigners in those events, so
yeah.
I would just hand out my name cards there, and my friend was running the event, and my wife was there because her friend was really interested in Bitcoin and wanted to just check it out, and we had mutual friends at the place, so that's where we met, and she was starting her own business, as I said before, the cooking class.
Yeah.
And I was trying to do my thing with custom suits, so that's where we met, and none of us were invested in coins, so I say I had the best ROI in Bitcoin because I didn't have to invest anything, but
true.
Yeah.
So cool. So that's how you guys met and you fell in love and kept in touch?
Yeah, I guess I kind of stalked her after that event. Like,
on Instagram?
I was like, I'm so interested in cooking. I want to learn from you, blah, blah, blah.
Oh.
But,
and where was she based? Yeah. She was based in Korea at the time?
Yeah, she studied in France for 3 years before opening up her thing. Her mom actually runs a really famous restaurant in Korea called Gangseomyeonok. It's a Korean traditional cold noodle place. But so she has her family background, but she wanted to have her own thing in Korea. Yeah. But she studied in Paris, so before that. But yeah, that's where we met, and I kind of took her to Boston, where she stuck with me in this COVID times.
When did you guys get married?
We got married in 2019, March 31st. So.
Oh my god, you guys are gonna have your anniversary this month.
Wow, yeah. Thanks for reminding me. I almost. But yeah, and then my program started in late May that year. So we just came to Boston almost right after marriage. Yeah.
I see. So how long does your program continue?
In Boston?
Yeah, the MIT.
So it's already over. So it started in May 2019, and we were supposed to have graduation May last year, but obviously it was all virtual graduation. But the program was just 1 year, and
did you enjoy it?
There's still.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah. I've met a lot of people. I didn't know that I would pursue an MBA. So it's a 1 year MBA. It's a bit, I guess, accelerated in terms of you have to take a lot of classes in a short period of time. But during the summer, about 3 months, there's like a session where you get to interact a lot with your classmates. Our classmates about 104 people. And
300?
Yeah, I met 103.
103, okay.
Yeah. So it's an interesting mix of people. Definitely enjoyed the program there, and still keeping in touch with a lot of people.
And props for you to getting into an MIT program. That's huge.
Yeah, I think I got really lucky. I don't know why, but...
What do you mean? Of course you're credible enough, that's why you got in.
I applied for the 2-year program actually, and because my age, I'm one of the youngest in the 1-year program. So average age for that 1-year program is 38, and I was 35, 34, and so so I applied for 2-year program, but then they were like, "Hey, we have this 1-year program, may fit you better," and then I interviewed for the 1-year program, and I got in. And looking back, it worked out because I would have loved 2-year program, but as I had a new family and a kid coming up, it was good that I was able to finish that quickly, and so.
Cool. And do you think like it helped you significantly in terms of now what you would want to do in the future, run your business and stuff like that? Do you feel like it made a huge difference?
So I guess a lot of people take MBAs as a career switch and a stepping stone to their next career. For me, I didn't get to utilize that as a career switch. Obviously, I've started a business, which is interesting. I don't recommend that for all people. But what I take away is just either off of looking back to what I've done and what I want to do in a more structured way, in a more framework introduced by these programs, and also just the fact that I was able to meet such talented people who also care. Everyone has their own insecurity about the future and also uncertainty. You're taking a break from a year, and who knows, if it's going to be worth it. But a lot of them took their chances, and a lot of them, fortunately, landed at good jobs, even in the COVID period. And just the fact that I can just ring up a friend at a program to talk about my concern, and whether it's family or career or business, it was really helpful.
Cool. Like Gary always says, like the biggest ROI of going to a college is your network and the relationships you build there. So you getting into MIT, like you have such a cool asset of people you have access to, and you have something in common that you can always reach out to.
Yeah, so it goes back to like when I was working in the family business, I didn't have a lot of people to talk about my concerns or stuff, but I was able to test some ideas and then really share that concern with a lot of professors and people there. So that was another good thing.
Yeah. And would you say there was a time in your life where you had to face like your fears, like you were afraid to do something and you did it anyway? Like talk about that experience of dealing with or facing fear.
Yeah. So I say that if something gets you fearful, I think you should do it because you won't regret it that you did it later on. So I guess going to military from the U.S., not knowing what to expect, I had a lot of fun. I met really good people in the military, but I don't know that before going in. But so it made me fearful, but I did it, and it was a great decision. It also is a small thing, but auditioning for a cappella or school band definitely made me fearful at first. I like karaoke, but I didn't know if I could perform in front of people. But I did a cappella when I was in undergrad, and I did a band vocal in the MIT, and that's kind of right before the audition, you're very nervous and but at the end of the day, you're very happy that you did it, and you learn more about yourself by facing the fear like that. My biggest fear now is, I guess, moving to different part of the country in the U.S. And also, trying to build this new e-commerce for the menswear. That even though I had experience with my mosque, it's a new territory that I have to do. But I think this, so, and also like sometimes my mom's like, a factory in Korea, I don't think it's gonna do so well. Maybe you should really look into getting a new career, and like you can do it while you're there. You're still young, and like that kind of, this is very practical, very realistic for her to say. But I feel like if that framework before, like when I'm like 70, 80, when I look back at this moment, if I don't try this, I think I'm gonna regret. So I think it's both fearful, but I think that's a good sign that it's something worthwhile doing.
Yeah, and like you said, you have such good perspective of genuinely believing that we live to 100. So even if you try it for like the next 3 years and 4 years and it doesn't work out, you can always pivot. But you'll never be able to go back to this time of doing this.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I had to ask you, so now that you're thinking of doing your own business later on, do you want it to be connected to your factory, or do you want to do it something that's completely separate?
Do I want to? Sorry, I missed that.
Do you want to still like be connected to your factory and like do it as like a collaboration, or do you want to function as a separate entity in the industry?
I think definitely I would do something like my mosque that would help the factory. I would definitely look into diversifying into different product category once we have a lot of satisfied customers and they are eager to look at different options that we can offer. But at this moment, I think our biggest strength is the ability to manufacture quality stuff. So, and I know that from experience, we were able to deliver that, and when I see the returning customers for our mamas, they come back because of the, not because how our Facebook ad was great, not because our copy was great, but they really like the product, and that's something that I'm proud of, and I think we have this, I guess, limited runway that we can showcase. So at this, I will start out with doing something that connects to the factory. Yeah. Hopefully, it gets big so that I can diversify and do other things.
It will. I think you're already so ahead of the game. You had like genuine solid experience in running a business when you were a part of your dad's factory. So you weren't a mere employee, but you were working so closely with the person who was heading the company, and who's built it. And you got this MBA, and you had like a really, I would say a really solid childhood where you said that, you became responsible so quickly. So I feel like your foundation as a person is so solid that now anything that you would do on top of it would be, like successful. And that's what Gary talks about a lot. Like a person's core, when that is solid, like that is something you can't change. You can always teach skills, but you can't change people's core. And a very few people have that really, really strong core inside of them. So I genuinely believe like you'll do so great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Of course. And I would have to ask you, was there any life-defining moment in your life that really shaped who you are as a person today? Like whether it was a book you read or a situation that happened?
Life-defining moment. Yeah, I guess, so before going to military, so I was still working as a, accountant at KPMG. I would still take a break to visit Seoul, to see my parents. And that's when I learned about, what kind of people he hires and what products we make. And there was one dinner where he had these guests. So he knew a friend who was working in the military, and he had a U.S. colonel that he was really close friend to. Mm-hmm. And, the U.S. colonel and my dad's friend visited the factory to get their suit made. Mm. And they were having dinner and drinks, and they needed someone to translate. So I wasn't a military translator before.
Yeah.
I was just visiting Korea, and my father was like, "Come visit for the dinner." guess looking back, yeah. So to finish up the story is, we had dinner, we had drinks, and we were parting ways, and the colonel kind of told me that he had, so he loves. This is his second time getting suits from the factory, and he said he also had a daughter with disability, and she passed away. But knowing what this factory does, it really makes him feel good whenever he puts his suit on. So that kind of, was, I guess that was really big on me.
Yeah, that's amazing. That truly is, and that really talks about like your product is not just amazing, but it has like such a solid story that it really adds value to so many people's lives, not just the person wearing it, but right from the root of it to the person who made it and their story and how it empowered them. And I think it's so wonderful. Thanks for sharing that. And your dad must be really proud, and you must be really proud of him to, have that idea to make that happen.
Yeah, and it's my turn to really shine the light on it's really, I'm not exaggerating, but it's really going through tough times, and
of course.
But I guess it's with a little bit of luck and a little bit of blessing, I think there could be ways to turn this around.
100%, I believe that in so many ways. And on that note, what would you say is your ambition or your end goal?
My end goal, I guess I never shared with anyone yet, but I think I never thought too much about brand. I was focused on being a manufacturer, but I realized the importance of brand in the story. And in Korea, even though we have very good companies that have very good products or services, such as Samsung or LG, but we don't have a good menswear brand that represents Korea. If I can build one and really successfully run it and introduce to a lot of people, I don't think I want to run it like 30-40 years, but whatever the runway I have, if I can successfully run it and position the brand as one of the leading brands in Korea, there'd be something meaningful.
That's so cool. And thank you again for sharing that. Like you said, you've never shared that with anyone before. And I read a lot of like Forbes Asia, because I really want to learn about business and everything, and how it's continuously speaking about that industries are just changing and transforming and innovating and disrupting. So new brands and new businesses that are coming in the market are only like those are surviving that don't just have good products but have like a good story to tell and have so much of an infrastructure behind them. And those are the ones that's succeeding, because now people are not just buying out of an impulse. People want to buy and they want to make informed choices. So you being aware of that and you having that intention, because you're not just now selling your product, you're also selling these people's stories and empowering the people that work behind them, and to bring awareness of respecting people with disabilities and that they're no lesser in their work ethic, and actually they might be even better because of how sincere and diligently and how respectfully they would work towards you, because you believed in them and you gave them an opportunity. So I definitely see it playing I can see the vision behind it and it being like a long game instead of like just a transaction between a business and a customer.
Right. And I think that's really important. And I think Gary also emphasizes that it's not transactional, it's really relationship, not just for among the employees, also with the customers and the shareholders that are behind them. And I think that's a really good, I think it's definitely not something that can be taken lightly. I think it comes really from his insight that kind of relationship and caring for others matter in the long run. And because it's so hard, it's valuable and it's something worth to try.
And Asia is like literally on the come up, so people and entrepreneurs in those regions can really step it up. Like a lot of investors are coming in, a lot of businesses are booming, and like it's just like a lot of momentum being generated in that region. So you having that vision, I think you're completely on the right trajectory to be what you have to be.
Thank you.
So that's really cool. Next question for you would be, what would be your advice for young people? Like, you've lived like such an intense and amazing, hardworking life, and you've seen some success here and there. What is it that you'd like to share with us, who are just starting out and, figuring their way out?
I say, really, don't be conservative in terms of, like, limiting yourselves. I kind of made that mistake when I was in college, that I had this set goal of landing that job and getting my license. But I think I would have taken more, if I go back, I would have taken more wild
risks.
Tries, risks. Would have taken some, maybe theater class. NYU is famous for their Tisch program.
Yeah.
Maybe like do an internship at a Broadway. I love Broadway shows, so I made myself. I didn't have that much money as a student, so I would collect money to like go to one Broadway show per semester. So I ended up watching like 10, 15 shows. But I guess really take into account that like time's limited, and also kind of going back to what I said, when you look back from far beyond, it really you'll regret for the decision that you didn't make. It's kind of becoming cliche, but it's so true. Like, you should just try it. It's not going to hurt you. You learn more from it, even if it doesn't come out as you planned. But I think the fact, whether it's journey or whether it's career or whether it's a relationship, really taking that chance and being bold about it and not regretting it. It adds such an interesting color to your life, and you can share that when you have a grandchild, and at least makes for a good bar talk when you talk to a stranger. You have interesting stories. So,
cool. And would you like to give like Broadway a chance and stuff, like here and there, now that you're old? I'm not saying like, would you like to give Broadway a chance now that you're old? Like, not completely giving up on your company doing Broadway, but just still, because I see like you have a lot of love for it, but what's stopping you now to, explore it a little bit on the sidelines, like on the weekends, go for a class?
For like acting?
Yeah.
It's funny. So I went, my wife and I are huge on Netflix now, and Instagram, I guess, and I love like making these expressions, like following what the actor was doing, and it would drive her nuts. But I think that's the limitation to my capability as an actor. I can make kind of fun of what they're doing and like make short videos, but no, I think I'll pass on that. I think.
Okay, but have you ever thought of like making content a shot? Like, I know Gary talks about it a lot. It's great for your business. It's great for your personal brand. Have you ever thought of like just doing content?
I definitely, I love the way Gary approaches his company, that if he were to start out, he would treat it as a media company.
Right.
So the creative content around, whether it's your personal life or business, I think is really, really important. And definitely, I don't know what kind of content that I can make, but yeah, I think that's really important. Like, to show for me, I guess when I go to Korea, I would love to create content about how these things are being made, what kind of people are there, and
yeah,
stuff like that. So definitely.
And Gary talks a lot about, like, for people who don't know where to start out with content, he talks about documenting versus creating, you know. So instead of thinking, like, what should I make? You just make, you know, you flip the camera. Your first video could just be, like, your story and how so many people would relate to it. Like someone who's gone through adversity and made it their advantage. Or you just giving advice. Or, you know, you've had, like, such a deep life. And you have so many things that, like, I learned so much from you. So you need to believe in yourself and like share your life so young people and like people are looking for mentors, people who've genuinely lived lives, you know, not just like razzing out advices. So I think that'll be a great place for you to start.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll definitely take that into account. Yeah, I like that document. I think about a lot. The whatever, you know, as I look at the 6-month-old son, like he doesn't know too much about what's inside my head right now, what I want to do, like, but it'll be cool to document, you know, what I'm feeling and the fears I have and the lessons I learned from when I was working for my dad.
Yeah.
I think it would really provide him with, you know, a good foundation to, you know, so that what my dad did, what I did, doesn't remain as a mystery, but a good context for him as he navigates, you know, his career and stuff like that.
Yeah, and you can give advices on like how to deal with being in a family business or how to be a young dad and, you know, dealing with managing your business and your baby and, you know, so many different things. You like so much to share. Like, let the people give those gems, you know.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I learned like how to document through BTS. Do you watch them? Do you like them?
Oh, BTS?
Yeah.
The boy band?
Yeah.
I actually bought a magazine that kind of featured them on the front cover, the Time.
Ah, so, yeah.
Kind of amazing to me, like how. So I didn't know the magnitude of their popularity until I came here, and I walked to, you know, just random store or like Barnes and Noble or just to stand with their magazines, and I would see all these BTS stuff, and it's like it's real. And you know, like back when I was growing up, when I was high school, there was no, you know, Asian boy band.
What are you talking about? Weren't there like Big Bang and all these guys? No.
That was, you really revealing my age, but that was like my end of my college years when Big Bang was.
Ah, I see.
Coming out. So
right.
No, I didn't know. I guess yeah. But I think I love the way that BTS, they connected to their fans through social media and I guess I'm guessing, but a lot of these young people are enamored by the stories that they tell, and I guess the struggles and the growing pains, and also the, you know, the stardom they were able to make. So as I guess reference to Gary, I guess they themselves became almost the media company themselves.
Exactly.
You know, documenting and then showing what their story is.
Yeah, and like, I don't know if you've heard Gary say this phrase, it would be so interesting to see Drake before he became Drake. That's when he was talking about documenting their journey.
Yeah.
And BTS has been that, you know, like you saw them since the beginning when no one was watching. And they were out there in like a really shitty webcam recording themselves and talking about, you know, how I'm hungry and I want to go home and I'm cold. And today they're this really unattainable image that you see. But you were able to go back on the 10-year journey and it's all recorded. So for people to experience that, and it's very empowering for the way they built up the whole company. You know, Big Hit, the CEO of the company, he goes by the name of Hitman Bang. He's such a visionary, and he brought like social media into the picture with BTS before like people knew what social media was. And there were just like these 3 agencies that were running Korea. But how he built up this agency from zero to nothing, and it's one of the only agencies that's actually profitable. And I went really deep into it because I loved the business aspect of it. But he's amazing, and therefore like the documenting thing like really works. If BTS didn't have their old videos where they were super like unpolished, super like not camera conscious, they would not have this success in the way people powerfully relate with them today. So that tells us something when we feel like I'm not sure who cares. Like a lot of people would care 2-3 years down the line when you've hit, like they'll be able to see the journey.
Yes.
So that teaches me a lot. Sorry, I asked you so many questions. Last question, like, would you have any question for me? That's anything you'd like to ask me?
So I'm wondering, do you love traveling outside India? Have you traveled? What's your favorite place to visit?
I recently really fell in love with traveling, but I never had the luxury to travel because when I was really young, both my parents were working really hard and we did not have a lot of money. So traveling was a luxury for me. And I also feel like I'm such a work-oriented person in the sense where if I was on a vacation, I would always feel like this void, like I'm not doing enough, I don't deserve a vacation. So even if I would go out, I would not have fun because I feel like I should be doing something else. But there's so many perks to it, to meeting new people and seeing new things. But I would want to travel when I have like a huge purpose to travel and not just traveling for the sake of traveling. So
the reason why I ask is like you love creating these content and I think you love meeting new people. I think your content will be just amplified where you visit these different countries and cities and you meet. Obviously, you'll probably have built up a lot of people who live in different cities, and it'd be so cool to visit them and like learn about their city, the food, and you show your audience what you're learning is documenting your journey abroad. So I just thought that was interesting.
It is. I think I love that idea and I would love to do that. Once I'm actually able to monetize what I'm doing and I actually learn how to make real money, that will be something really cool. And today I was actually a part of this Korean exchange cultural program where there was this virtual meetup and this thing was called Soul Light. Like the city Seoul and Light. And there were these 12 people who joined this meetup and 9 of them were Korean and they were all speaking in English and we all just like connected. We were able to transcend boundaries of language and distance and whatnot and just got along really well. So that was something that really interesting that happened to me today. And they all spoke about how you should come to Seoul and how much everyone loves drinking and like just stuff like that. So yeah, that was something that's generally like on my mind because I feel like if I go there, like I don't know anyone and I would feel like such an outcast, but people were just so welcoming today. So that really revived my hope.
And with the connections you've made with these kind of podcasts, there will be a lot of people who will help you out in terms of where to visit, and if they're there, they'll probably take you out for dinner, and it could also be your content. Like
definitely.
You interview someone, some person, and then you go to their city and meet them in person. How cool is that?
I know, it is so cool. And thank you so much for coming on. Last thing, would you like to share anything with the world? There's something that's on your mind that you would just like to talk about?
Yeah, I think, there is a lot of uncertainty. I mean, we're getting vaccinated. A lot of people, we're seeing these cases go down, but I think there's a genuine fear on like economic bubble bursting. The asset price, stock price is so high compared to everyday reality of having small businesses, being open. And my factory, as I point out, is really going through tough times. And I think there's genuine fear and also a lot of anger that doesn't get covered too much in the media. So, and I try to, make that as I learn about the realities, the harsh realities, and I learn about what some people made millions in investing in coin, and like that discrepancy can be really debilitating and really discouraging. But I say, I think if we keep at it and really do diligent good work and have our mind in the right path, I think that's the most important thing. Having that direction of having that right mindset is gonna carry you a long way. And so I don't know if this sounded too encouraging, but
no, it makes a lot of sense. Like a lot of people can get caught up in, oh my God, I missed out on that super like impulsive opportunity, that instant gratification. But that's not what making money is about, you know. Like you'll make a lot of money, you'll be super happy when you spend it, and then you left with this feeling of emptiness. Versus when you're working towards something that's purposeful, something that means something in your life, that's a whole different kind of fulfillment. So that makes a lot of sense.
So, keeping the right mindset and having really reevaluating yourself, making sure what you have is having like a really happy relationship with the family and the friends. That's gonna go a long way, and it's gonna help you go through this hardship. So that's what I'm trying to do too. So
thank you so much for sharing that, and for sharing your story and being like super candid and honest and like just really open and courageous to share your life with us. I mean, I think a lot of people need that genuine exchange of life to life, you know, versus like a super like on the surface level conversation that people are having these days.
Thanks for having me on.
Of course. And would you have any feedback for me, like anything that I could have done better in the podcast?
No, nothing. Except it would have been nicer if you had brighter lighting on your end.
Oh yeah, my MacBook's really...
maybe because it's really late there.
No, also like my MacBook, I'm online from my laptop, so that does not have a very great camera. I also have like this lighting in front of me that's helping me. But if I was online from my phone, the camera quality would have been better, but I would have not able to screen record. That's the only thing.
No, but it was really good. You made me feel really welcomed and comfortable, and that's why I was able to share so much. So
thank you so much. And please let me know if there's any way I can add value to you any way in the future. I'd love to, and I hope you like always without hesitation are able to reach out to me, because that's what the podcast is about, you know, like building real relationships that last. So I hope you reach out to me if you need anything else, and likewise.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Thank you so much for coming on, and I'll hit you up as soon as the podcast goes up.
Okay.
Bye, Jay. Thank you so much.